Fnaf Security Breach is Scott Cawthon's swan song. Let me explain. Following video is a review for Fnaf Security Breach. I played it at launch along with everyone else and got it as a paid product. I also played on the PlayStation 4 version of the game, which is the version with the most abundance of glitches, as it was likely an oversight. So, please enjoy the footages from the PlayStation 4 or PC version of the game, however. Just be warned that the footage may not match up with what I'm talking about. Now, before we get into this, I've been a fan of the FNAF series since I think the second or third entry. So, of course, these are biases of someone who has played through every game. And honestly is advocating for Steelwool to take over the franchise. So, I'll get into that in a sec, but let's start the review with the pros. Pros. This is an innovative take on the FNAF series, since basically every other game in the series was the same. You sit in an office and do something. Gregory is my favorite protagonist we've had, because he has the common sense to not stay multiple nights. Like, yeah, you can choose to stay an extra hour or two to figure out what's happening. But also, at least by then, the freaking building is open. Like, genuinely in that scenario, it's like, book it out of here. There's killer animatronics. Who gives a crap about whatever's happening? I personally would have just hidden those photo booths near the elevators, near the exit. But it's an extremely innovative game in the series. The closest thing I can compare it to is, to be honest, Sister Location. Well, NVR, but that seems like a low-hanging fruit, considering that's basically a mix of everything and also the only other game made by Steelwool. Speaking of which, this is Steelwool's first non-VR game. And it shows. Because the game had, like, actually, I'll save that for the con section, but this is their first non-VR game, which shows, but Steelwool's a small studio, and, well, it's a small studio in their first game in this style, and their second game with this franchise. And the first game in the franchise was a glorified remake. So, I fully understand where it's coming from. But also, here's something I really like. Each of the animatronics have a distinct personality in their behaviors. Chica is very easily distracted by things like food or lying objects. And this can be used to your advantage, because she will sometimes just stop in her path and start eating garbage. Monty is very determined and focused, but kind of slow. Roxanne is super fast, and has good eyesight, and also laser sharp hearing. If you make a noise, you could get caught. She is by far the most intelligent animatronic, and the most annoying, but that actually goes into a spoilery bit, where you can decommission the animatronics, and as they get weaker, they lose things. Like, for example, Roxanne loses her eyeballs, which means she's just lunging at whatever noises she hears. And it's honestly really cool. It's actually nice to finally have a way to defend yourself that isn't just a door that barely works. It feels weird that we've ditched both Foxy and Bonnie, though. Like, Bonnie, I understand. We have Vanny. It's a bunny character. But, yeah. Another pro. This game, more than anyone else in the series, focuses on its story, which I appreciate, because there's now actually a narrative focus in the game instead of basically just small tidbits the game hopes you're smart enough to figure out, and then actually confirms them in books that aren't canon, but some people argue are, and other people argue aren't, even though the books have basically been confirmed as canon now, because of the Easter egg in Security Breach. Speaking of which, Easter eggs! Security Breach did amazing on the Easter egg front. All the arcade cabinets both look beautiful to look at and have some really cool Easter eggs, including, in my appearance, I saw Lefty, Mangle's Quest, Balloon Boy's Adventure, BB's Air Adventure, and more on top of some of the decals, including things like Ella and Theodore from the books, or Fetch, which basically confirms that Fazbear Frights and the Silver Eyes trilogy, to some extent, are canon, and we can finally put that under. So, yes, like, it's been an argument for a while. It was basically confirmed by Sif's location, but I appreciate, like, that full confirmation. These books have, like, full events take place in this world in some shape or form, instead of the characters existing in separate bubbles and just being the same characters. But I do like Security Breach. Its trailers made it look visually stunning. It probably looks amazing on the PlayStation 5 and PC. I played it on a base generation PS4, so kind of hard to say. But the game's fun. I love a lot of its sections, and it has that FNAF core still. There are sections where you're in an office trying to survive. And despite it only being one night, which at this point, why do we have the name Five Nights at Freddy's? Half of these games take place way more. I think every game in the series is either more than 5 nights or less than 5 nights. I don't think there's a single game that's actually 5 nights. I'm serious, I don't think so. Yeah, because Sister Location has custom night. But, yeah. The game looks great on the consoles I didn't play it on. I love the atmosphere. It did an amazing job of the atmosphere. Now, and every other pro I have for it needs a con first. So, yes, the negative section is going to have positives in it. Mostly because I think a lot of this could be improved. And I like constructive criticism more than just saying you suck. I'd rather you say, you suck at blank, this is how you could improve. That's just how I've been taught. But so let's jump into the cons. Let's jump into them. These are some of the problems I had with the game. The load times are atrocious. Like, just 20 seconds of sitting in the dark. Given, again, I played this on a base PlayStation 4. Sure, it's better on Steam. Sure, it's better on the PS5. Secondly, glitches. I got soft like 5 times. In a casual playthrough, I got soft locked 5 times. One soft lock where I got jump scared and also entered a hiding spot, which preceded me entering the hiding spot, and when I exited the hiding spot, I entered the hiding spot again. There was another semi-soft lock where when I got captured by Vanessa, the screen turned completely black during gameplay, and quick note, reloading the game did not fix the problem. Turning off the PlayStation did not fix the problem, so I had to get out of an area blindfolded without ever seeing it before. There's definitely more soft locks, but the game's filled with bugs. I've got stuck in walls. Freddy's just teleported on top of me randomly. I do think that's a problem. And they've been doing an avid job of patching them, but, like, the bugs are a problem. And then, another thing, and this one makes little to no sense to me. The game screens are pixelated as all hell on the PS4 version. They look great on Steam and PlayStation 5. I've seen them on YouTube. But they are atrocious on the PlayStation 4. You can't make out what's happening. Like, and I understand, oh yeah, we're going to use this to save on console resources. but you make everything look awful. Like, just make some objects less shiny. I don't understand that. But, and then difficulty. It has the usual end difficulty curve of stupidness that every FNAF game is obligated to have, and then this is something I think FNAF really needs to learn. It needs difficulty options. I'm sure veterans of the series are getting kind of tired of it, because basically every game in the series is the same difficulty. So if you've been a veteran for a while, I would not consider myself a veteran, by the way. I think a hard mode and an easy mode on top of a normal mode is what should exist in these games. That way newcomers have an easier experience, and those who are seeking a challenge have that challenge. And hell, if you want to, throw in a nightmare difficulty that has some bonus Easter egg foreshadowing the next entry in the series. I think that would be neat. But I do genuinely like this game. And I think it's... And the boss fights are hit or miss. Some of them I really enjoyed. Some were annoying. Specifically the boss fight, you get the achievement wub 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 for beating. Seriously, I hated that. That was so annoying. Because you just had to do the same thing 5 times in a row without dying once. And you just had to hope you made it, and then there was a section of hallway at the end you had to book it through without getting caught. It was fun. But let's go into the title of this video. For those who did not know, due to political reasons that I won't get into here because it's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, Scott Cawthon retired from the FNAF series midway through this game's production. Which means this is the last FNAF project to release that has Scott's official approval. Because everything else that's released before or was supposed to release after this released earlier because games take a long time and COVID delayed everything. And on top of that, Scott's retired. Which, again, whole nother video for a whole nother day. You can Google it. MatPat and Dawko have good videos on it and why. And they both knew Scott Cawthon quite well, so they definitely have a better perspective to say on that than I do. But yeah, video for another day. But this feels very much like a passing of the torch. And I think it's a good thing if Scott were to have retired, it was now. Because I don't know, this game just introduced a lot of new mechanics and new animatronics. The fact that 2 of the original 4 have been replaced. And the main antagonist this time around is Vanessa instead of William Afton. Kind of makes it feel like a passing of the torch. The books have come to a proper conclusion. All 14 of them. And this, in a way, is the passing of the torch. I mean, it quite literally is the passing of the torch. This is the last game the creator of the series worked on before retiring. But this feels very much like both... I guess this mostly reflects here VR as well. VR feels like the ending, and Security Breach feels both like a natural continuation and a new beginning. Because VR did leave room for Vanny to be explored. Or, as we knew her at the time, reluctant follower to be explored. So it's both a natural continuation with not many gaping plot holes, at least for FNAF standards, and it still leaves the bulk of the story so far wrapped up. In a way, this in-between of these games is the end of the first FNAF saga. The first 8 games. Which I guess we're going to, what, FNAF 18 now till we end the Vanny saga. Why are there so many mainline games and spin-offs? The series is only 6 years old. I think we have 4 or 5 spin-offs at this point, and 9 mainline entries. That is multiple games a year. But, that's the thing. I really appreciate this game. It's a natural continuation, while also keeping FNAF VR's finality still a thing. It's still there. You can still play through FNAF VR and see, yes, this is the end. This could have been the end. And it still feels like the end, even knowing there's more to come. Because they didn't intrude on what made FNAF VR finite. They instead made a new game that continues the story and still lets the game that felt very finite still feel finite. So, I appreciate it in that regard, and it really is a passing of a torch, and of course, in this case, a swan song. If you ignore the bugs and the problems that exist solely on the PlayStation 4 version, so let's say you're playing this on PS5 or a super high-end PC, the game is great. If you do this on the devices this was made for and intended to be played on, the game's good. Obviously, there's the bugs. You can beat the game in 5 minutes because of all of them. But I think that with Steelwool actively patching out some of these bugs, and this being Scott's last game, it's finite, the end of an era, the passing of a torch, and Scott's swan song. I don't know, just, it feels very FNAF-like of an ending. We're done. Another person walks in the room, grabs the knife, and finishes the job.